Welcome back, everybody, to the KC Sports Report. I'm your host, Michael Darcy, and today I have the pleasure to be joined by my good friend Josh Fan of ShowMeFootball.com, and in this video, we are going to talk about the Chiefs' left side of the offensive line. So, Josh, we saw two guys play on this left side of the offensive line for the first time, really, in their NFL career. We saw Josh Simmons play, at left tackle, and we also saw Kingsley Suamataia make his debut at left guard. And Simmons played 11 snaps and looked as good as advertised. And Suamataia looked pretty good for the most part, but he did have one snap where he just got, beat on a blitz and kind of tripped over Humphrey and didn't have the cleanest rep. But overall, I would say that I'm pretty encouraged by what I saw. But Josh, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I think it's important that you highlighted the fact that I don't think either of these guys were perfect in this game. And it never was going to be perfect. I think, and this is more so true for Kingsley than it is Josh Simmons, but, Chiefs fans are hyper-fixated on the performance of those two because, we need them to be good, but also the Chiefs had kind of put, a lot of investment in these two. They said, hey, this is our left guard, this is our left tackle, and it kind of has to work, especially after what we saw in the Super Bowl. It has to be better than what you rolled out there last year to a degree. I mean, I don't think Kingsley individually is better than Joe Thuney, nor do I think he'll be, but, overall, you're looking at that left side of the line and what it can be. But it was never going to be perfect. And I think expecting both those guys to be perfect, especially Kingsley, who, is playing a new position, essentially, there's going to be struggles, there's going to be moments, and there was last night. But I thought he looked pretty good myself. I mean, I thought, he had the one rep where, something, I don't know exactly what happened, but the linebacker got the best of him and kind of broke through on a bad rep. But Josh Simmons, kind of the same thing. It's nothing was overwhelmingly positive about his performance, but nothing negative either. Nothing that told you he didn't belong out there. He went up against Baron Browning, who has, by all accounts, had a good camp for the Arizona Cardinals. He could not get past Josh Simmons on any of his pass rushing reps. So I think it was a solid debut for both of those guys in the preseason.
Well, and I think that you just saw in this game that Simmons' technique is very refined at left tackle for a rookie, and that's something that he can build upon. And I don't want to just completely get over my skis. Simmons played 11 snaps, and Kingsley played 12, so we can't really fully grasp what these guys are going to end up being this season, but I think the important thing is that they got preseason reps, because the Chiefs last year, saw guys play a little bit in the preseason, and then they didn't really pan out in the regular season. I think in the remaining two preseason games, I want to see these guys get more reps, because that is something that, especially for an offensive lineman, and a rookie offensive lineman in Simmons, you need as much, reps, game reps as possible, and it's only going to make him better. But in the very short sample size, I thought Simmons looked great, and I think that, technically speaking, he is going to have all the tools to really be a good left tackle this season. He's just going to have to continue building on his performances and not get discouraged if he gets beat once or twice, because you made a great point. We can't expect it to be perfect. We just need it to be better than it was last season.
Yeah, and I mean, look, you mentioned how Josh Simmons, the technique, it looks good. There's also going to be some things to clean up. You don't want him to lose some reps and then mentally be out of the game. And that's another thing that I was going to say is that, we've seen Josh Simmons kind of break out into a couple fights in training camp already, this preseason and training camp. And, I mean, that's all, these guys are competing. Sometimes that happens. It's one thing for it to happen against a teammate in practice, which, I've already said before, I don't like to see him fighting teammates, although I get it, right? But I didn't want him to go out there either, because this is something that he struggled with, and one of the reasons why I questioned the draft pick at the end of the first round is because he had a lot of penalties in college. He didn't have any penalties last night, now small sample size, but didn't have any penalties, and what I didn't want to see was, him lose a rep and then, smack someone upside the helmet and, add on 15 yards backwards. I mean, that's just not what you want to see, and we didn't see that, so credit to him, and hopefully he can, keep his head on straight on the field at all times, because you don't need your left tackle bringing back big plays, potentially.
When you really can't lose, I guess you can't gain a lot of momentum in the preseason, as in, which guys are going to make the roster. I feel like most of that is already kind of predetermined by the time that you're at this stage in training camp. But you can also hurt yourself with your performance. And I don't think that either of those guys hurt themselves with how they played on Saturday. And that's really the ultimate goal because, again, I don't want to say rookies, but you've got two guys
essentially,
playing an entirely new position. There's going to be some growing pains. There's going to be a couple bumps on that road. But again, I just think that overall, you are setting yourself up for more long-term success. And if Simmons ends up, starting the entire season and is even in the middle of the road, I think that the Chiefs absolutely stole him at the end of the first round, and he's probably going to change the, trajectory of this season.
Well, there was one throw Mahomes made last night. I remember watching in one of the clips, and I mean, the pocket, it was like, holy cow, I don't think Mahomes has had this clean of a pocket to throw in since Orlando Brown, maybe back when
Eric
the
Fisher.
offensive. Yeah, I mean, it was like, dang, if we get this next season, even just a little bit, just enough to where Mahomes can find his targets open downfield, his speedy receivers that he has. I mean, that's gonna make a huge difference, honestly.
Well, not only is it gonna make a huge difference, but I think you're gonna see him maybe take some risks that he wouldn't have taken, last year, and we're also hopefully going to see a wide receiver core stay healthy, but, it all starts with protecting the quarterback. And the Chiefs feel very confident in Simmons starting at left tackle. There's basically been no one gunning for that job outside of him. And Kingsley is probably going to end up being the starting left guard. I'd be pretty surprised if he wasn't. And I want to talk more about the left guard position, and we'll do that right after this ad break. This video is sponsored by my wonderful friends over at DM Injury Law. Injured in an accident? You could be entitled to significant compensation, but time is critical. Rely on the experienced personal injury attorneys at DM Law, Kansas City and Missouri's top injury law firm. DM Law is a full-service personal injury practice supported by a large team of investigators, case managers, medical records specialists, and more. And best of all, you don't pay unless they win. DM Law operates on a contingency fee basis, so no fees unless they win your case. And they also provide free consultations. So if you've been injured, don't wait. You can contact DM Law today for a free consultation and learn how they can help you pursue the compensation you deserve. Let them handle the fight while you focus on healing. Hurt in a car wreck? Call Mike. Remember, Mike's got this. The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisement. Thanks to DM Injury Law for sponsoring this video. The Hollywood Casino at Kansas Speedway is the place to be. With over 1,500 slot machines, 35 table games, 4 restaurants, and a new ESPN Bet sportsbook, there are plenty of ways to find your fun. For more chances to win, follow them on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and X. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Huge thanks to the sponsors that have supported this channel all offseason long. Now, I don't think that either of us think that anybody's going to beat Josh Simmons out as the starting left tackle, but I will ask you this. After watching Kingsley not struggle, but also not look as refined as Simmons on Saturday, do you think there's any chance that maybe that left guard spot is still up for grabs?
I mean, I don't think it's impossible that you could see someone different there throughout the season if Kingsley struggles or whatever, but I wouldn't call it up for grabs either, because, I mean, who else is going to, Mike Caliendo, are we really going to roll with that? I mean, Wanye Morris, maybe. People have theorized, maybe you could put Jalen Moore there, but he hasn't played guard in the NFL either. I mean, it'd be almost essentially the same as putting Kingsley there. And Kingsley's been practicing there all offseason, so not really, I guess, is the answer that I have to that question.
No, I think that people just need to be patient. Kingsley, I think, has all of the physical traits to, develop into a very nice left guard. I think that even coming out of college, we both agreed that he was more suited to be a guard at the next level than a tackle. And there's a lot of people that, right away wanted him to be Joe Thuney. He's never going to be Joe Thuney. And I think that's okay to admit. We just need him to be solid. And I think that if he's an improvement over Mike Caliendo, then your offensive line is going to be leaps and bounds better. And I think that it's okay to admit that he's not going to be Joe Tooney, but you also found potentially your left tackle for the next 15 years in Josh Simmons in this draft. And if he ends up being, above average, left guard's not going to be as important. And you can kind of, supplement that with a guy like Kingsley who failed at tackle. Or, if Simmons ends up being the real deal, you could probably put, Caliendo at left guard. But, I think that if you want to play the best 5, Kingsley's going to be out there.
Yeah, and I mean, look, people that are concerned, I'm not really going to push back on your concerns. Like, nothing really told us that Kingsley is going to be a slam dunk at left guard, and he still has a lot to prove to Chiefs fans. But again, like we said, like it's not going to be perfect. There's going to be some moments he's going to have to learn a little bit, but I'm pretty confident in the plan, though, right now, as things stand. I think Kingsley will continue to improve throughout the season as long as you're getting solid play at left guard. I think you're going to be all right. And I think the question is more about his pass protection. That's what people are worried about. But is anyone really worried about Kingsley being a good run blocker? Because I'm not. And I thought he looked good as a run blocker last night in the preseason game.
Yeah, I thought he looked really good in the running game. And I think that, there's a little bit of confusion with what happened on that play where he did get beat. Now, I will say that linebacker just completely, shoved Kingsley, and he did get pushed back. But he also kind of tripped over, Creed Humphrey's leg. And so that's something where, maybe he gets, beat, but he doesn't get beat as bad if he doesn't trip. And again, it's the preseason. This is the first time that these guys have gotten actual live football reps that aren't against their own teammates.
Well, and if you're Kingsley, this is your first live reps since week 2 of last year. Well, I guess, he played in that Broncos game, but even that wasn't really, a high stakes game or anything like that. Not that the preseason is either, but it's been a while for him too.
But your first live reps also at a new position. And
yes,
so again,
exactly.
There's going to be some growing pains with that. And I think that we both agree that overall, you take that one snap out, he was pretty solid that entire night. And again, not a very big sample size, but going forward, we both like the plan. So, Josh, I think that we've done a pretty good job talking about the tackle play. Again, both of these guys played, combined under 25 snaps. So we're going to have to see these guys get more reps as the preseason goes on. But, overall, I think that we're pretty encouraged with what we saw. But my final question for you is, where can the people find your stuff?
You can find me here on YouTube. Channel name is Show Me Football. Check out my work on showmefootball.com. And then lastly, follow me on Twitter at ShowMeFB.
And guys, all that stuff will be available in the description. Hit that like button, subscribe for more Daily Chiefs content. Until next time, guys, thank you for watching this video. And as always, go Chiefs.